everyone, and welcome to Johnny and Clyde, the Rocketman Big Book Study. We're just two alcoholics reading and studying the big book together and discussing it the way that Joe and Charlie did back in the day. So what we're going to do is we're going to start this meeting with a moment of silence, followed by the set-aside prayer.
God, today help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, and everything I think I know about my own recovery, so I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please help me see the truth.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, about this meeting. In 1973, John McHugh introduced Charlie P. as an AA speaker at Al-Anon convention. Joe and Charlie soon discovered that they both had a love for the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Traveling between their homes and discussing the big book became a regular event. So, Johnny and Clyde met in Mizuku in 2022, and we discovered that we also had a love for the big book. We started studying it together. And then someone asked us to do a podcast. So we're here today. We meet every Sunday at 2 p.m. until 3:30 in this room. Please have your big book handy and bring along a sheet of paper or two and a pen. You might want to take notes as we study together. We will be recording this audio of these meetings to share them with others. You can go to our website at thezuku.org, and they're usually released on Thursdays. So the purpose of this big book study is when you're meeting with a prospect or what we might call a sponsee today, or just talking about sobriety in general, we want to be armed with the facts about ourselves and the AA program. We found that freedom from alcohol comes through taking the 12 steps and working with others. Now, page 15 of the 12 and 12 tells us what the 12 steps are. The 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. So how soon do you want to be happy, joyous, and free? We suggest that you purchase a copy of the big book if you don't have one for future use. You might want to underline, highlight, and take notes as we study together. Order your AA literature from Alcoholics Anonymous so that the money goes to Alcoholics Anonymous and to ensure that you get a good copy. See, here in the original zoo, we're not advocating that you rush through the 12 steps, but we highly suggest that you have a sense of urgency in taking the steps and have them become a way of life sooner than later. Act as if this was a matter of life or death, because it actually is a matter of life or death. How soon do you want to be happy, joyous, and free? You can go to our website at thezuku.org and order a copy of the big book as well as read it online. The big book is our basic text, and it contains a full recipe for recovery. It's impossible to find a loophole in the big book that excludes you from being a member of AA. So, before we get started, we're in the chapter We the Agnostic, and Clyde's going to come in and bring us up to speed, and he will be leading us today. Come on in, Clyde.
Okay, thank you, Cousin Jonathan. Hi, I'm an alcoholic. My name's Clyde, and so glad to be here with y'all to study the big book together today. And we are in chapter 4, We Agnostics. And specifically, where we're at in this portion of the book is on page 53. And what we're going to learn about today and really study in some detail is what Bill wrote and why he wrote it, and so we can understand it better. The difference between faith and reason, because we're told that we should develop faith in a power greater than ourselves to restore us to sanity and help us recover from alcoholism. And there's a lot of us that are using reason begin with reason and then transition to faith. And we need to be clear and understand the difference between this is a very intellectual part of the book, what Bill wrote here, and we're going to study it. And so what we're going to do, if you have a big book, I want you to get it and maybe get a pen and a highlighter so you can make notes. And we're on page 53. And we're going to start here in the middle of the page and then continue from there, one paragraph at a time. Maybe not even a whole paragraph, maybe even a sentence or two at a time. We're here to study the book. We're not reading it, we're studying it. And so we're going to go through this, carefully and really discuss it and understand what's going on here. So in the middle of the page, 53, it says, when we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis we could not postpone or evade, we had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else he is nothing. God either is or he isn't. What was our choice to be? So he continues here, and this is where it gets really intellectual and technical, and we're going to talk about it at length today. Arrived at this point, we were squarely confronted with the question of faith. We couldn't duck the issue. So it's time to decide if we have faith in a higher power or not. We can't get around it anymore. It's time to face the issue. And what he tells us is that some of us, and remember, this chapter is called We Agnostics, and it's addressed really to people that are agnostic and atheist. It says some of us had already walked far over the bridge of reason toward the desired shore of faith. Okay, so we're going to stop right here. So what is the bridge of reason and what is the shore of faith? Why did he put those in there? So I'm going to post a couple of things here for starters. If you look in the chat, the definition of faith is a firm belief in something for which there is no proof. You can't prove it, but you have a firm belief in it. The definition of reason is the sum of the intellectual powers. That's my thinking part of my brain, which happens to be my problem. As an alcoholic, remember, in chapter 2, we're told that the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind. So that's the problem with me. So the key point here, though, is the difference between faith and reason. Faith is a belief which there's no proof for, and reason is the sum of the intellectual powers. And I want to share some more with you. Let me copy and paste this. Hold on. This will really bring things into focus for everybody. Okay, so we're going to read this. What I put in here was another description of what faith is. It's a belief in something that doesn't require evidence and can't be proven rationally or empirically. Okay, can also refer to a belief that's held against reason or empirical evidence. So faith just means I believe. Okay, it's a belief. Reason is the ability to use logical thinking to reach rational conclusions, and it refers to the human cognitive faculties or to truths known through natural faculties like memory and sense perception. And I want to really get into this difference between faith and reason. We're going to continue, but first, Mama Bear has her hand up. By the way, we have 90-second shares. Come on in and share, Mama Bear. I'm going to start the timer here.
Thank you, Clyde. Mama Bear is still an alcoholic. In my experience with faith, and what I believe is that there comes a point in living in faith that you actually come to the place that you have faith for. You have the physical, I have the physical evidence. I had faith that this was going to happen, and lo and behold, there it is, like, sobriety. I had faith that God will deliver me and bring me to a point where I am today. That is my definition of faith, of seeing something that will come eventually because I believe. Thank you very much for letting me share. Peace out.
Okay, thank you, Mama Bear. Yeah, come on in, cousin.
Hey, what's going on? Good afternoon. You know, you when you was reading this, Clyde, I realized that paragraph right in the middle of the page, what a strong statement it actually is, and a strong question. And I'd like to answer that question. It asks us. It says that we had to fearlessly face the proposition, right? That either God is everything or He is nothing. God either is or He isn't. And then there's the question: what was our choice to be? Well, I know that He is, you know, and I believe that He's everything. And you know something? I'm glad that this is one day at a time. This is one day at a time. Today, I believe that He is everything to me, you know, and I need to answer that question, and I need to be able to answer that question all the time, you know, no matter what. But that is a powerful question. And when I read it, I have not met anyone who's who has said this is in my experience that God is absolutely nothing. I've met people that says that He is, right? But I haven't met anyone that says that He is nothing. Maybe I'll meet that person one day, you know. But, yeah, that was more powerful than what I thought.
Okay, good. Thanks, cousin, for sharing that. We appreciate it. Okay, Denise, come on in. What is God everything or nothing? What do you think?
Well, of course, he's everything. He's all. He's I am. He's everything. I love this discussion. I like what the notes is scientific versus personalistic. I encountered this way back when awareness of God when I was 21. I was in college, pre med. Well, they kept on saying I was coming from worms in zoology class, right? And I was like, no, I was created by my HP. And the professor said, well, in this classroom, you came from a worm. I said, okay. Well, I quit pre-med and I went to accounting because there's no faith is not accepted per se in pre-med, right? Right. And I didn't want to submerge myself in that kind of thinking for 8 years. Accounting is black and white, it's finite. So anyway, it just brought up a memory. But thank you for that definition. I like that.
Okay, thank you, Denise, for sharing with us. All right, Zen Jen, come on in, share with us.
I like this that it's stated in there either he is or he isn't. And that was really scary for me when I first got sober because I never not believed, I just didn't know. And my brain was not really functioning at maximum capacity when I came in. So I just put faith that it could be. Now I realize God is everything. That's really the only thing in my life that is an absolute for me. So I don't worry when other people that I meet in the program say I don't believe. I say, well, I mean, to me, if you're coming in and you get a sponsor and start doing the work, that's enough faith. If you're I would say it's okay as long as it's not a solid no. If it's a maybe, you'll grow on that. It will change your concept of a higher power that you create and that you get to choose in this program will change over time. I know mine has. And they'll find it to be true for themselves. I've seen it over and over again. So thanks for letting me share.
All right, thank you, Jen. Okay, cousin, what do you think? What's going on here?
Yeah, this is great. I definitely need this today. You know, I was just thinking about this yesterday. and how the steps correlate, and the process that it's been going through the steps in my relationship with my higher power. And yeah, and it clearly says, I love what the sheriff said, that, I didn't come in here with God being everything. I came in here and he is. I knew that he was, because I was disconnected. But when I look at it in my journey, it's been step one, come to me. That's what he said. Step two, believe in me, and step three is walk with me. And step four, he says, work with me. And then through the rest of the steps, he says, live with me, you know? And yeah, these are things that I'm learning and seeing. Yeah, so I'm at the point where I'm living with my higher power. But that's been the process. Yeah. He called and said, just come to me first. Then believe in me, then follow me. Then work with me. Do the work. And if I do the work, he wants me to live with them. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, cousin. We appreciate your share. Great, great. Kimberly, come on in and share with us.
Sorry, you were like just gonna move on. I'm Kimberly and I'm an alcoholic. And I love how this definition says a belief in something that doesn't require evidence and can't be proven rationally or empirically, because for me, having that evidence or proof is what has sort of held me back for a long time. Because when I can't see something or have that evidence, it's hard for me to have faith. And I guess that's why they say the whole faith without works is dead, right? Because I have to work at having faith. I really do. I still do. It's gotten better, and I do trust slowly in my higher power more and more. But having that faith that something out there, is bigger than me and can control everything is something I have to work at every single day of my life. I try to take back control all the time because I don't have that faith sometimes, and I have to be brought back to it. So yeah, that's just my experience with it, and it's something I have to work at, having faith every single day. So that's all.
Great. Thank you, Kimberly, for sharing with us. We appreciate it. So we'll go ahead and continue. So Bill is going to spend some time here writing about the difference between faith and belief, faith and reason. And so again, I put this in the chat for us to look at and understand the difference. And, reason deals with factual 2 + 2. If I have 2 alcoholics and then bring 2 more alcoholics together and they join up, there's 4 alcoholics. I can prove that, that's reason, that's faith, that's we can prove. But I can't prove that God exists. Okay. So I feel very strongly, and I have a firm belief in it. And it's objective versus subjective, very simply. Objective is factual data that is very specific and provable. Subjective is a matter of opinion. And the same thing, genuine knowledge versus opinion. Reason is knowledge, factual knowledge, and faith is an opinion. So that's the big difference here between the two. So back to what he wrote was, some of us had already walked far over the bridge of reason toward the desired shore of faith. Okay, so the shore we want to step foot on is faith. And it says the outlines, I'm going to continue reading at the bottom of page 53. The outlines and the promise of the new land, that's the land of faith, had brought luster to tired eyes and fresh courage to flagging spirits. Friendly hands had stretched out in welcome. We were grateful that reason had brought us so far. So again, we're using our intellectual mind, our thinking just like Kimberly was talking about just a minute ago. But somehow we couldn't quite step ashore. Perhaps we'd been leaning too heavily on reason that last mile, and we did not like to lose our support. So some people are still at this point stuck on this intellectual thing, this reason thing, and they can't make the leap and can transition into faith. So Bill tells us that was natural, but let us think a little more closely. He says, without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith. So for people that think, well, I'm a reason and logic person, intellectual person, and science person, I don't believe in this faith stuff. He's trying to tell them that, yes, you've been operating on faith already. And here's what he tells us. It says, for did we not believe in our own reasoning? Did we not have confidence in our ability to think? What was that but a sort of faith? So that was me having faith in my intellectual abilities. So I do have faith. I do have the ability to have faith, and I do have faith. It says, yes, we had been faithful, abjectly faithful to the God of reason. So I was treating my intellectual powers as my higher power, as my God, my thinking ability. So I did have faith in something, my thinking, which is a big no-no. It says, so in one way or another, we discovered that faith had been involved all the time. So we've been using faith, even though we have this, this is addressed to people with the scientific mind and agnostic and atheist that don't believe in faith. It's like, you've been relying on faith. You've had faith all along. It's just in the wrong thing. It's in your own thinking. So here he continues, next paragraph, we found too that we had been worshipers. What a state of mental gooseflesh that used to bring on. Had we not variously worshiped people, sentiment, things, money, and ourselves? And then with a better motive, had we not worshipfully beheld the sunset, the sea, or a flower? Who of us had not loved something or somebody? And here's the question. How much did these feelings, these loves, these worships have to do with pure reason? So he's resorting back to this faith versus reason thing. And do these loves and worships have anything at all to do with reasoning, or are they feelings? Feelings and faith are the same, cut from the same cloth. It says, little or nothing we saw at last. Were not these things the tissue out of which our lives were constructed? Did not these feelings, again, this is the faith portion, feelings, after all, determine the course of our existence? It was impossible to say we had no capacity for faith or love or worship. In one form or another, we had been living by faith and little else. So he's letting us know, I know you think you're a Mr. Agnostic, Miss Atheist, you think you rely on intellect and reason and logic only, and you don't believe in faith. You've been living your life on faith all along. So faith is something that we've all relied upon. So he goes on, oh, here we go. Come on in and share, Jen.
Thank you so much, Jen, grateful recovering alcoholic. I like how the book gives examples that are very, very basic for us, because we do live our life in faith without knowing it, with very simple things. For example, when I open my refrigerator, I know that light's going to come on and that there's going to be cool stuff for me to enjoy to eat in there. When I get into my car, I turn the engine. I don't know anything about mechanics, but I know it's going to turn on, um, just simple things like that. Sometimes we need to break it down like that to see how often in life and throughout our day that we do have faith. You know, when I turn my blinker on to make a right turn, I have faith that, you know, the other person will understand that I'm making a right turn, you know. And these are just simple things that can help break it down to the simplicity, because as alcoholics we like to complicate and we want to intellectualize. Well, I need evidence, but there's evidence everywhere. Look at a child being born, you know, that they grow into a they grow every day. There's a lot of faith in that. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Jen. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. Okay, cousin, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, this is a great reading. What you're reading right now, and it made me think about it actually made me think about love, right? That I believe in love, right? And and why? It's because I see other people enjoying it. Right? I see other people enjoying it. And I said, hey, I want that too. You know, I want a partnership. I want a companion, somebody to love, right? And it's like only because I saw what it was doing for other people. I knew nothing about it. And I didn't try and figure it out and try and do the do's and the don'ts with it neither. I just wanted it. And why can't I do that with my higher power? Because I also look out and I see what he's doing for others, you know. But but I still want to try and figure it out for myself, you know. But yeah, those are just I just you guys just made me think of that, and yeah, it can be that simple. You know, it can be that simple. It's obvious. I'm looking out. When I see love, I see people holding hands, people enjoying themselves, going here, going there together, and stuff like that. So, and just like when I come into AA and I see people living happy, joyous, and free. They're not craving alcohol and drugs or all kinds of other nonsense, that I was going through. So why wouldn't I want that too? And if they tell me that they got it through a relationship with a higher power, well, I'm in. I'm in. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, cousin. All right, come on in, Denise.
It's Denise again, a grateful recovering alcoholic. I like that point where he said, just imagine a life without faith. Think about it. And like what the previous share said about love, can you prove love? Think about it. Is it a scientific thing that you can write it out? The feeling of love. You have to have faith to love. My prayer every day is, Lord, reduce me to love, because I don't need to worship things. I just need to worship my HP. And, it talks about the sun, the flower. I always tell people, that's fine if you worship that. That's fine. But I go a step ahead. I worship the creator of that. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful, because it would be a boring life just to be on facts all the time, right? So, all right, I'm done.
All right, thank you, Denise, for sharing with us. We appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and continue reading again. So Bill's just trying to point out to us here that it's okay to have faith and live on faith. Not only is it okay, he's steering us down that path. And because that's an important part of our program. We came to believe in a power greater than ourselves, and we have faith in that power. And that's where he's trying to get us. That's what this step's all about. This is chapter 4 here is about coming to believe, and he's helping us come to believe. So we'll continue with the next paragraph. It says, imagine life without faith. It says, we're nothing left but pure reason. It wouldn't be life. It says, but we believed in life. Of course we did. It says, we could not prove life in the sense that you can prove a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points. Yet there it was. Hi, Kimberly, come on in.
Hey. how it says imagine life without faith. I can absolutely imagine life without faith because that's what my life was before I came here. And it was miserable and it sucked. And I was depressed and sad and all of those things. And when I start losing my faith in my higher power, that is exactly what happens again. So I can imagine what it is because I lived it. And sometimes I still live it when I start losing that faith and start relying on myself again, because I always like to think that I can handle everything myself better than this power bigger than me can, but I can't. So I just have to continuously remind myself of that. And that is all.
All right. Well, thank you, Kimberly, for sharing with us. Okay, so I can't prove life in the logic and reasoning sense and the objectively, but of course, here it is. So it says, could we still say the whole thing was nothing but a mass of electrons created out of nothing, meaning nothing, whirling on to a destiny of nothingness? Of course we couldn't. The electrons themselves seem more intelligent than that. At least, so the chemist said. So again, we're discussing, he's writing about the difference between faith and reason. So bottom of the page, hence, we saw that reason isn't everything. Neither is reason, as most of us use it, entirely dependable, though it emanate from our best minds. What about people who proved that man could never fly? There were these engineer type people back before we had aircraft and flying that were able to prove using intellect and reason and logic and science that it was impossible to create anything that could fly. And guess what? They were wrong. And that's the whole point here. He wants us to realize if we feel that way, that everything revolves around reason and logic and intellect, we could be wrong. In fact, we are wrong. So we'll continue here at the top of page 55. It says, yet we had been seeing another kind of flight. Instead of the physical airplanes, we're talking about a spiritual liberation from this world. People who rose above their problems. They said God made these things possible, and we only smiled. We had seen spiritual release, but like to tell ourselves it wasn't true. And when he says we, he's talking about the agnostics and the atheists. Come on in and share with us, Alyssa.
Thank you, Clyde. Alyssa, recovered alcoholic. A spiritual liberation from the world. Wow. Just reading that gives me peace. People who rose above their problems. I get to quit playing God because there is something more powerful than me out there. And when things come up, I get to turn it over to that higher power, which I call God. Spiritual liberation, wow. And that's the thing, is that I get to smile knowing that it's completely out of my control and I don't have to burn up energy foolish anymore because I have an intimate two-way relationship with the one who I found who has all power. That is the solution. And back on page 45, it guaranteed me that promise that that's what this book would do. So thanks for letting me share on that.
Yeah, thank you, Alyssa. And I'm going to look up. So the definition of liberation means the setting free of someone or something. So spiritual, we're being set for our problems is what we're being set free from. And it's our faith, it's our spiritual liberation that's allowing that to happen. So that's what it is, being set free. So, okay. Well, let's go ahead and continue then. It says, actually, we were fooling ourselves. For deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. So let's stop right there. Is there anybody here right now that doesn't have this fundamental, like at some point in your life, from when you were born till now, you had this idea, this fundamental idea that there is some power, something out there that is God, whatever your conception of God is, some higher power, mysterious, that created all of this stuff, created where life came from, like the first cause, the planets and the stars and the flowers and the sky and the clouds and the mountains and the ocean. And where did all this stuff come from? Does everybody here have that fundamental idea of God? I know I sure do, in a big way. Growing up as a little kid, I even remember just looking up at the sky and the stars and thinking, wow, where did all this come from? You know what I mean? It had to come from something, and it's the fundamental idea of God. Does everybody here have that fundamental idea? Come on in, Kimberly.
Thanks, Clyde. Yes, I do. But I was just gonna say, so for me, having to come up with a definition of what my higher power was something that really held me back. Because I felt defining it made it have to be sort of like a tangible thing, and that there had to be evidence of it because I was defining it. So I've actually done better almost not having a definition of what my higher power is, and just having that faith in whatever it is that it is, and just kind of letting it be that way. That just seems to work for me. Other people, it's different, and that's cool too. But yeah, I just wanted to share that because that's sort of was a hold up for me, I guess. So it's been helpful to not define it as much as I had thought I had to, I guess. Thanks.
Thank you, Kimberly. And I want to reiterate what we read earlier. This is what makes this step so easy for us. The second step, we took the second step on page 47. And here's the question we had to answer. It says we needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? That's the simple step 2 question. A power. We don't have to define it. We just agree that yes, there is a power greater than myself. You say yes, you can build a wonderfully effective, your higher power can build a wonderfully effective spiritual structure on that. So it's that simple. So thank you for bringing that up, Kimberly. That's a great point. It's a power. We don't have to define it. Come on in, Jen.
Yes, Jen, grateful recovering alcoholic. The previous share just reminded me of a gentleman who's a member of AA. He used to say, a God of my misunderstanding. And I used to think that that was a little bizarre, but then I got it later on. I understood what he was referring to is that, I find when I try to describe my higher power, it takes away from what it is, for me. So I just let it be what it is and just enjoy all the fruits that it bears. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Jen. And bingo, you just hit the nail on something on the head on what we read on page 46 earlier in the chapter. Check this out. It says that we found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice, that's old ideas, old fixed ideas, wrong old thinking, and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commence to get results. And here's what Jen just said. Even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power, which is God. It's exactly what Kimberly and Jen were just talking about. And I used to go to meetings with a guy that called it the God of his non-understanding. And that's what he's talking about. We can't fully define or comprehend this higher power because it's beyond our thinking. His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher, or its ways are higher than our ways, and its thoughts are higher than our thoughts. So it's okay. We don't need to fully define or comprehend it. We just need to have faith in there is some power, a power greater than ourselves. It's that simple. Okay, so we'll go ahead and continue. Oh, come on in and share, Denise.
Yes, just to elaborate on that, there's evidence of a HP in our world. It's called creation. And you know, I have faith that all this didn't just come together by happenstance. Okay, that's my faith. Because it's harder for me to believe that than to believe there was a creator. So I just wanted, that's my faith, right? And the evidence is obvious everywhere for me. All right, I'm done.
Thank you, Denise. And okay, we got another share that matches up with what we read earlier in the big book, page 53. It says, we agnostically inclined would not feel satisfied with a proposal which does not lend itself to reasonable approach and interpretation. And here's what Denise was just talking about. It says, hence, Bill says, we are at pains, means we really are going to tell you, we eagerly want to tell you about this. We are at pains to tell why we think our present faith is reasonable, why we think it more sane and logical to believe than not to believe. So that's what this is all about. It's trying to point out it makes more sense to believe than to not believe, to have faith than not have faith. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue. I'm going to reread that sentence. We're at the second paragraph at the top of page 55. It says, actually, we were fooling ourselves. Again, these are the agnostics and atheists. For deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by calamity. That's, negative events, hardship. By pomp. That's me wanting to be a big shot, a show off. By worship of other things. But in some form or other, it is there, this fundamental idea of God. For faith in a power greater than ourselves and miraculous demonstrations of that power in human lives are facts as old as man himself. From the beginning of time, mankind has had faith in some power, some higher power, and it has been performing miracles in our lives forever. That's what he's telling us here, and that's true. It says, we finally saw that faith in some kind of God was a part of our makeup. We're born with it. It's in us, just as much as the feeling we have for a friend. Sometimes we had to search fearlessly, but he was there. It was there. He was as much a fact as we were. It says we found the great reality deep down within us. That means like in our spirit, our soul, like deep within us, okay? It says in the last analysis, it is only there that he may be found. It was so with us. So there's this higher power is a fact. And that's the statement that Bill's making here. And it's that simple. So the next paragraph says that we can only clear the ground a bit if our testimony helps sweep away prejudice. Remember where it tells we need to have an open mind, open-mindedness. Prejudice is a closed mind. That means you already know, and you're not willing to change your thinking. If our testimony helps sweep away prejudice, enables you to think honestly, encourages you to search diligently within yourself, then if you wish, you can join us on the broad highway of faith, with a higher power. It says, with this attitude, you cannot fail. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. So what's the attitude? It's I'm searching, I have an open mind, and I'm searching diligently within myself, saying, higher power, please reveal yourself to me, disclose yourself to me. I'm drawing close to you. I know you're there. Please disclose yourself to me. And it says, with this attitude, you cannot fail. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. And that's been my experience. Does anybody else want to share about your experience with your higher power and the consciousness of your belief? Hi, Chris. Come on in and share.
Hi, Chris, alcoholic. Growing up, I had a deep faith. When my son passed away, I got really angry at God and just turned away from him. Coming back into the program, I was told I had to have a belief in a higher power, and I was like, well, I don't believe in God. Then I started to realize, well, I have to believe in God because I can't be angry at somebody that I don't believe in. So I had to work through that. We're back on good terms. We're friends again. He's back in my life 100%, and it feels really good. I had a huge void inside me when he was missing, and that void is now filled. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Wow, Chris, thank you for sharing that with us. That was moving. Hi, Jen, come on in.
Hi, Jen, grateful recovering alcoholic. And I remember sitting in a meeting and reading the steps on the wall, and this, came to believe, and I was like, just evaluating, can I really do this program? I don't know, and I was completely crazy at the time, and I wanted relief. And I remember about 2 years prior to that, when my husband's grandmother was on hospice, and everybody came into the room and talked to her and said goodbye and all of this stuff. And she had a very good relationship with her creator. And I believed that she believed. She was ready to meet her maker and was ready to go. And she said, after all of this, she goes, well, like she was waiting to meet her Jesus. And I said, and that was her higher power. And I said, I do believe that she believed. And that was enough for me to start moving forward with the rest of the work, was that I believe that other people do. I don't believe everybody does, but I did believe that she did. And that was enough for me to expand and grow. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Jen. And again, you have had the right attitude, and the consciousness of your belief came to you. You're talking about your experience matches what's in the book here. That's beautiful. So, oh, here we go. Come on in, Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly, grateful recovering alcoholic. I just wanted to go up to the top on page 53, where it says, it is not by chance we were given the power to reason, to examine the evidence of our senses, and to draw conclusions. That is one of man's magnificent attributes. I think in my recovery journey, that is where I'm trying to focus on, to learn what those evidential, magnificent attributes that I have, that I can learn to recover from and share, and not fear to share the evidence that I believe in faith has protected me and guided me, and created this program based on so many wonderful people who have experienced similar senses that I have as an alcoholic. So I just wanted to bring that. I just think that's beautiful to talk about the evidence as our magnificent attributes. That's it. Thanks for letting me share.
Great. Thank you, Kelly, for sharing that with us. We appreciate it. Denise, come on in.
Thank you for letting me speak again. I love that one sentence. With this attitude, you cannot fail. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. My HP is the creator. And my faith is, I'm talking about my faith. He created me to want to have a relationship with him. That I think is innate, because that he created me with that longing. And that's what I believe in, and I love it, because think about if you didn't have that, where would you be? Just nothing, going by the whims of everything, right? But yeah, this is good stuff. I'm probably getting a little bit more deeper than I should, but it's good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, so let's keep reading here. Bottom of page 55 says, in this book, you will read the experience of a man who thought he was an atheist. Now, he's talking about a story in the back of the big book, and it's our Southern friend, Fitz, okay? His story is so interesting that some of it should be told now, and it ties in perfectly with what we've just been reading and studying. It says his change of heart was dramatic, convincing, and moving. So this is a beautiful story about coming to believe. One of the stories in the back of the big book, our Southern friend. His name's Fitz, nickname Fitz. Our friend, I'm at the top of page 56. Our friend was a minister's son. He attended church school where he became rebellious at what he thought an overdose of religious education. So he's not liking all this religion stuff being forced on him as a kid. For years thereafter, he was dogged by trouble and frustration, business failure, insanity, fatal illness, suicide. These calamities in his immediate family embittered and depressed him. So this guy's angry, depressed, all this calamity that we were reading about on the previous page. Post-war disillusionment, this is after World War I. Ever more serious alcoholism. Remember, it's progressive. It's getting worse for him. Impending mental and physical collapse. So he's collapsing mentally and physically, just like Bill did in his story. It says brought him to the point of self-destruction. So this guy's just drinking away, killing himself. One night, when confined in a hospital, he was approached by an alcoholic who had known a spiritual experience. He got a 12-step call. Our friend's gorge rose. That's his anger, irritation, his gorge rose as he bitterly cried out. He's ticked off. If there is a God, he certainly hasn't done anything for me. So he's mad at God if there is a God. He says, but later, alone in his room, he asked himself this question. Is it possible that all the religious people I have known are wrong? So while pondering the answer, he felt as though he lived in hell. This guy is miserable, frustrated, can't stand it. Then, like a thunderbolt, a great thought came. It crowded out all else. And I wonder where this thought came from. I'm going to suggest that it came from God. Here's what it said. He said to himself, and it's in italics for emphasis, who are you to say there is no God? He finally woke up and realized, wait a minute, who appointed me the ruler of the universe, the smartest person in the world, to claim there is no God? Who are you, Fitz? And he finally, it says, this man recounts that he tumbled out of bed to his knees. In a few seconds, he was overwhelmed by a conviction of the presence of God. Sounds like Bill's spiritual experience. It poured over and through him with the certainty and majesty of a great tide at flood. The barriers he had built, the prejudice, the closed mind, the barriers he had built through the years were swept away. He stood in the presence of infinite power and love. He's on the broad highway now. He had stepped from bridge to shore. Remember the bridge of reason, stepping to the shore of faith? He did it. God did it for him. For the first time, he lived in conscious companionship with his creator. That is just beautiful. Almost brings tears to my eyes. Thus was our friend's cornerstone fixed in place. Okay. Cousin, what do you think about all this? This is just so heartwarming.
You know that you know that I know about this, man. And I could tell you what he said, and I've had this experience by reading this. You know, it was so simple. When you go to page 215, he said, God, here I am with all of my troubles. You take me and my troubles and do whatever you want with them. And that was it. I love it. And he taught me that I could get help from my higher power just that simply. Here I am with all of my troubles. You can take me and my troubles and do whatever you want with them. And he moved on, you know, and allowed God to do what he wanted to do. Wow. Great, great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, cousin, for sharing that. Come on in, Jen.
Thank you. I love this paragraph. There's so much to it. And how the book is written, and it's always capitalizes when they're talking about the Great Spirit, the presence of God. And you'll see it, the infinite power and love is all the presence of it. It's all capitalized, and that's important in this book to notice that, because that's where Bill is talking about the higher power, you know, and to pay attention. So I wanted to just talk about that. Thus our friend's cornerstone was fixed in place. And I love how the book comes alive with all these analogies. We have, you know, the road to happy destiny, the bridge, and then he also has we have a foundation, and now we got a cornerstone, and then in the third step it's the keystone. And luckily in my study group there was a gentleman who was an architect. So if you look up those type of stones, they need to be in place to make that arch that we go through in the fifth step to walk into freedom. And so if you look those up, the cornerstone and the keystone, they all have to be in place so we get it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, John, for sharing with us. Okay, so we're going to continue then. It says, thus was our friend's cornerstone fixed in place. It says no later vicissitude has shaken it. And vicissitude, I looked it up, means hardship. Again, you know, some difficulty that comes up. And he hasn't had any life happens. You know, life gets lifey. Nothing shook him. His alcoholic problem was taken away. That very night, years ago, it disappeared. Save for a few brief moments of temptation, the thought of drink has never returned. And at such times, a great revulsion has risen up in him. Seemingly, he could not drink even if he would. God had restored his sanity. This is all his 10th step experience here. The problem, his drink problem, was removed. Sanity had been restored. And And so that's all 10th step right there. And what is this but a miracle of healing? It is a miracle. It says, yet its elements are simple. Again, this program is simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. Circumstances made him willing to believe. Circumstances, that's step one. He realized he got mangled. Life wasn't working anymore. He was powerless over alcohol. His life was unmanageable. That's his circumstances. First step one, made him willing to believe. So he came to believe. He was willing to believe because he really had no choice. He humbly offered himself to his maker. Sounds like step three to me. Then he knew. So even so has God restored us all to our right minds. That's sanity gets restored. By this time, sanity will have returned. That's during the 10th step. He points that out to us. So at some point between steps 1 through 9, and we are restored to sanity. It says, to this man, the revelation was sudden. He had a spiritual experience like Bill. Some of us grow into it more slowly. Those are spiritual awakenings, little aha moments that add up and add up and add up, little changes, little changes, little changes in our personality, these psychic changes, personality changes. But he had the big one, a big experience. It says, but he, meaning our higher power, has come to all who have honestly sought him. Remember, sought through prayer and meditation. That sounds like the 11th step to me. And the second step. It says, when we drew near to him, he disclosed himself to us. So it really is that simple. Just have some faith, get rid of your old ideas, and seek a higher power, and it will reveal itself to you. It's really that simple. So that's the end of that chapter, We Agnostics. And I think we covered in pretty good detail. You got to admit the last several pages are talking a lot about the difference between faith and reason, and how powerful faith is. So does anybody have any comments on what chapter 4, We Agnostics? Come on in, Denise.
I love this chapter because I go back and read it often. It reminds me and it supplements my faith because what happened to our Southern friend, you can't prove, right? But we have faith that it happened. And when you encounter that presence, you can't write it down except for if you're narrating it, but you know, and God knows, right? And that's all that matters. And the living amends take place. That's the evidence, right, of a changed life. The outward part. This man, it says, when we drew near to him, he disclosed himself to us. And it reminds me of so many people, that void, they're trying to fill that void. Alcohol is one way to do it. But it can't be filled. Only by your HP can it be filled. All right, I'm done.
Okay, well, thank you, Denise. So I think we're ready to move on to the next chapter, chapter 5, how it works. And I just want to give a brief introduction to this portion of the book. Bill, the way this came about was he was in a hotel room and kicking back, trying to figure out how to write this and what to write. He needed to summarize the program and he couldn't quite figure it out. So he decided to pray and meditate on it. He had a bit of like writer's block, and he was a little confused and wanted to get this right. So he prayed and meditated about it, and it came to him. He picked up a pad of paper and a pen, and it took him about 20 minutes to write the opening pages 58 through the 60, and it flowed. He said it was inspired. Like he just wrote this all out in one shot. Now there have been some edits done to it. There's an original manuscript and there were some revisions, but the bulk of this he wrote with as an inspirational thing. He said the pen just flowed, the words just came, and it came from God, his higher power. Come on in and share, cousin. What do you think about this?
Yeah, well, you know that we've talked about this, man, and wow, how a miracle this is. But you know that the how it works was is the outline, but the real crazy part about is that he wrote the 12 steps. He wrote all 12 steps during that sitting, you know, and that's where we believe that that had to come from a higher power. It had to come from God, you know. He wrote the 12 steps that day. You know, that I would think that, you know, they wrote a couple of them and waited a few months and wrote a couple. No, he wrote all of them in that sitting that day.
That's right. And there were 6 steps. So the genesis of our 12 steps, the origin is from 6 steps that came from the Oxford group. And he expanded it into 12. It includes the same principles of the 6, but he expanded it. But he did this with his higher powers guidance and direction, and it just flowed. It really is a miracle. So let's go ahead and read about it. Chapter 5, how it works. By the way, just as a matter of housekeeping, the way the book is written is we're going to read what the 12 steps are. The first 11 are on page 59 and step 12 is on page 60. And this is just a summary of what the steps are. The instructions for taking the steps are spelled out in the book. So you'll recall step 1 was on page 30, where we conceded to our innermost selves we were alcoholic. In chapter 3, there is a solution. I'm sorry, more about alcoholism. The second step was on page 47 in the chapter 4, We Agnostics, where we had to ask ourselves the one short question, whether we believe or are willing to believe in a power greater than ourselves. Those were the directions for steps 1 and 2. So we've taken step 1, we've taken step 2. Now we're going to learn more. He's going to summarize the program for us. And then after he does that summary, is going to launch us right into step 3 and give us the instructions for doing that. So he's going to tell us now how it works, a summary of the program. So chapter 5, how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. You guys hear that word? Honesty, honest, honest. That's the key to the program. And thoroughly following the path. Completely giving ourselves to this program and being honest. So it's about willingness, honesty. That's the 2 principles I'm reading so far, willingness and honesty. Come on in, Jen.
Thank you, Jen. Grateful recovering alcoholic. So in that first paragraph of how it works, it's describing this is how I read it, is that there's a lot of excuses as alcoholics that we like to give that we're not going to do this program. Oh, it's not going to work for me. I'm constitutionally and well, there are such unfortunates and people with grave mental disorders, emotional disorders. Many of them do recover. if they have the capacity to be honest. It, you know, I have yet to meet somebody who is constitutionally incapable. I did meet someone who tried to say, I'm constitutionally incapable. And I said, well, let's just do the work and let's see if it works for you. And guess what? It did. And so it's about being honest. And so that's it. Thanks for letting me share.
Okay, thank you, John. Hi, Kimberly, come on in.
Hey, Kimberly again. So yeah, honesty is definitely the most important part of this program for me. I had the willingness, I had the open-mindedness, but I did not have the honesty. And not like honesty as in like, not telling lies, which I also didn't have, but that wasn't the hard part. The hard part for me was being honest with other people about my feelings, about who I am, being honest with myself about my feelings and who I am. And yeah, just being able to trust and open up to other people and be honest with them, like truly honest, not just telling them what I thought they should hear. Now I'm more open with people, and that has really made a huge difference in my recovery. So yeah, honesty is super important in this program. Definitely.
Yeah, it's not only is it super important, it's indispensable. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. We read about that in the spiritual experience in the appendix in the back of the book, because it was referenced 3 times for us. And we referred back to it with little asterisks at the bottom of the page in the previous early chapters about a description of a spiritual experience. And it talked about willingness, open-minded, honesty, and open-mindedness. So, okay, so the next paragraph says that our stories, whoops, hold on. We've got another, come on in, Elissa, and share with us.
Thank you, Clyde. Alyssa, recovered alcoholic. So I love that you pointed out that up to this point, it's pointed out several times the willingness to honesty and open-mindedness, because I've always referenced the spiritual experience for that acronym. But it's I don't think it's odd that we're in we agnostics, where we're coming to believe that there's a power greater than ourselves, right? The who. It's the, we have to get the who.
I'm gonna get the
Right?
rest of the stuff.
Who,
That's good.
Yeah.
oh, Cuz is unmuted.
Yeah, I got him.
Thank you. Hold on, give me 1 second to get my thought back.
The who.
Yeah, the who. Sorry. My cognitive ability is not what it used to be these days. Medical opportunities, but that's okay, because you know what? I'm willing to be honest and open about that. But here we're at step 2, came to believe that there was a power, right? That power, that's the who. So we're talking about that, and that's where that acronym for me, because without the who, it doesn't matter the how. And that's why this comes first. Step 2 comes before chapter 5, right? And so I just love that you pointed out those other sections where it clearly states the who, the willingness, the honesty, and that open-mindedness, because for me, it's all about the who. Because without the who, I'm left to myself, and that's disaster. It doesn't matter how it works, because I'm going to put my spin on it every single time. But today I don't have to do that. I get to allow my higher power to lead me, and that's just amazing. So thanks for letting me share on that part of the reading.
And thank you, Alyssa. We appreciate you. Okay, we'll read the next paragraph on how it works. It says, our stories disclose, and he's talking about this. There's 41 stories in the back of the big book. Dr. Bob is the first one, and then the second one is alcoholic. Bill Dotson Alcoholics Anonymous #3. Bill's story is chapter 1. And so there's 41 stories in the back, and then Bill's makes 42. That's what they're talking about. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. So you can read these stories about these early people in AA and find out, you know, what they were like and what happened and what they're like now. If you've decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. So what is it? Let's stop right here and let's answer that question. He says, if you've decided you want what we have, what do they have? What do we have? And any ideas? What they have is freedom from the obsession to drink. They have the power to help other people. Cousin Jonathan loves to bring that up. We have the power to help other people. We have the power. That's a gift that we shouldn't take lightly. We're uniquely qualified to help other alcoholics. We're lifesavers, literally. We have the power to save people's lives. So if you decided you want that and you're willing to go to any length to get it, willingness, okay? So there's the honesty and open-mindedness, and there's that willingness again. Then you're ready to take certain steps. Okay, so at some of these, we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way. So there's some of these steps that we're thinking, whoa, wait a minute. Come on in, cousin. What do you think of all this?
Well, you know that this is where I get to brag a little bit, you know, where if you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. And then you want to know what we have, you know. And I always for what I'm learning now is that I have fallen short on letting the new people know what we have, you know. And I think that you know we gotta let them know, man. You know, first off, like you said, we have freedom from the addiction of alcohol. We're no longer addicted and craving alcohol, right? But we know what they want when they come in the door. So we got to tell them that we got that too. You know, we have careers, our families are back in our lives, some of us. Our health has been regained. We got jobs. We're making money. We got cars, trains, automobiles, airplanes, nice places to live, some of us, you know, and the list could go on and on and on because, you know, uh, we got to be able to let them identify that we're not a glum lot. And all of those dreams and ideas and fantasies that we come in here with, you know, let's just keep it real, that those could come true too. But the main thing that we're gonna get if we take these steps and do it sincerely is, yeah, Clyde, this is what the book tells us. It says that we're gonna be given a new power, you know, a power to help others, you know. And the thing about it is that's what I really needed. I needed somebody with that power to come to me. See, because my experience is my mother couldn't do it, my sisters and brothers couldn't do it, my wife, my kids, the doctor, the lawyer, or the judge couldn't convince me to stop. But here came along some alcoholic. You know, this alcoholic could actually help me, you know, to want to stop destroying and killing myself, man. So yeah, we gotta let them know what we got, man. Right here is where I get a chance just to brag about us a little bit, you know, and I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, cousin. Denise, you want to share about what we got? It says you decided you want what we've got. Come on in.
I like that because thank you, thank you. Yeah, what we got is power, right? And where did that come from? Because by ourselves we couldn't do it. There is one who has all power, That one is God. May you find him now. I love that. Right there in the big book, right? They keep on going back to your HP. Because apparently we're not, a judge can't fix us. A DUI, losing your family, I mean, it'll shake you, but is that going to get you away from alcohol? No. You know, and I think about back when this was written, they didn't know how to deal with alcoholics. My opinion, he was inspired. So all these alcoholics didn't have to go to asylum. That's where they went. Nobody knew how to handle alcoholics. And look, lo and behold, we've got AA. All right, I'm done.
All right, well, thank you, Denise. So that's all the time we have for sharing today. Actually, let me just finish this paragraph, and then we'll wrap things up with the rest of our closing statements here from our script. So it says that at some of these we balked. Oops. Sorry, I forgot to turn the timer off. So again, we're talking about being ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. There is no easier, softer way. It says, with all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go. Absolutely. That means moved all in. So we'll continue. We're going to do a recap next week. And so I think this would be a good place to break for today. It's been a great study. So I want to thank everyone for coming to the Cousin Jonathan and Clyde the Rocketman Big Book study. We meet every Sunday at 2 o'clock to 3:30 p.m. in this room. So you have a homework assignment now for next week, and that is to read pages 59 and 60. This chapter 5, how it works. I want you to cheat on the test, do a little research. I want you to read about it, study it, and come back to the group next week. And so we can have more detailed discussion and study session about, what we're reading here and what we're studying. The better we understand this, the better, and we can help each other. That's what we're here for as a group. And so please go ahead and read ahead a couple pages before you come next week. And we're so glad you were able to join us today. So we meet every week, Sunday, 2 o'clock to 3:30 p.m. in this room. And this podcast is recorded, and it'll be available by this Friday. You can join us on Telegram for updates. So, Cousin, do you want to read the end of the script for us, or should I read it? What do you think?
I got you. I got you. This is what the big book says on page 164. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize that we know only a little. God will constantly disclose to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously, you cannot transmit something that you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and for countless others. This is a great factor for us. So abandon yourself to God as you understand. Admit your faults to him and your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. And we shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. And you will surely meet some of us as you drudge the road to happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. So let's close this meeting with the Lord's Prayer all together. Everyone can unmute. And who woke us up this morning? Our Father,
Our Father, who art
God
in
in
heaven,
heaven,
hallowed be
hallowed be
thy
thy name,
Thy
thy
kingdom come,
kingdom come,
thy will
and
be
thy will be
done
done
on earth
on
as it
earth
is
as
in
it
heaven.
is in heaven. Give
Give
us
us
this
this
day our
day
daily
our
bread,
daily bread, and
Forgive
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 us
us our
our
trespasses,
trespasses,
as
as
we
we
forgive
forgive
those who
those who
trespass against
trespass
us,
against us.
and lead us
Lead
not
us
into
not into
temptation,
temptation,
but deliver us
deliver
from
us
evil.
from
From
evil.
evil.
For thine
For
is the
thine is the
kingdom,
kingdom,
the
The
power,
power,
and the
and the
glory,
glory
forever
ever
and
and
ever.
ever and ever. Forever
Amen.
and ever.
Always.
Amen.
Okay, great.
All right.
This was a great podcast. Thank you guys so much for coming out and helping us. That's how we do this.